Through murky fog and low visibility, a Coast Guard chopper attempts to reach a man suffering from severe chest pain.
I can barely see the water. Let's take it real nice and easy.
This weather's bad. We're in the thick of it. Like pea soup fog like I've never seen.
In the dense forest, a crew struggles to locate a downed plane and its 7 passengers.
Anytime you hear 7 people, then you start thinking for a mass casualty, and you know people are down there and they're in distress, and seconds count.
And when the call goes out for persons in the water, rescuers gear up for a hoist.
Do you have a survival suit on?
This really shows what the Coast Guard does, is we don't give up on people, no matter what the circumstance is.
The vast Alaskan wilderness, a place where beauty is cloaked by danger. Here, every day, the highly trained men and women of the U.S. Coast Guard risk their lives to save others. America's deadliest waters are protected by Coast Guard Alaska.
It's a male, 60-year-old male. Yep. Thank you. All right, bye.
Lieutenant Robert Hornick. I'm the Operation Duty Officer here at Air Station Kodiak. This morning at 3:30, we received a phone call. 60-year-old male had a heart attack at Old Harbor, about 40 miles south of the air station here. The weather, we're looking at about 1/4 to 1.5 mile visibility here in Kodiak en route. The weather's about 100-foot ceilings.
All right, guys, we're going to Old Harbor. I'm expecting the weather there to be poor as well, so we're just gonna follow low-vis route and get there safely.
Lieutenant Commander Tim Williams, H-60 pilot, Air Station Kodiak. The weather's poor at this point. Definitely not the type of weather we'd go train in, but the survivor's condition and his need to get to further medical care definitely warranted us to fly into that poor weather to go get him.
Let's take it real nice and easy. By the time we come in, the sun will be peaking up, hopefully.
This weather's bad. We're assessing the visibility in the ceilings. We could judge based on the painted lines on the runway that it was right at 1/4 of a mile, which is just enough to get going for a SAR case.
I can barely see the water. I want to keep it a little bit lower than that. Roger, I was gonna climb up to 150. I'll come down so we're visual. Let's take it real nice and easy.
This gentleman needed to be Medevac and brought to a higher level of care due to a heart attack. There's always an urgency that's an upped urgency to get going even faster, and that's, you know, juxtaposed against this 1/4 mile of visibility. So there's an element of hurry, but not rush.
So, John, did you hear the same thing I did? The patient's actively having CPR done? No, that's not true, unless that changed within the last 5 minutes.
AST2 John Holberg. You got the golden hour, as they say in emergency medicine. So you're thinking about time. On the way out, we're preparing the plane and getting everything ready to go.
We will be landing at Old Harbor in 1 minute. We are on final right now. And there's door speed. I'll take the coming open. Roger. I was hoping it was going to get a little bit thinner out here, but man, it's not. It's thick.
It was patchy fog, and as the sun was coming up, the sun was kind of burning off the fog here and there. So we thought it was going to be better.
This might dust up on you.
Roger that.
You got a bit of a cloud. It's passing the tank, passing the door. It's real small, though.
When you have a patient with heart problems, you're just constantly thinking, what can I do to get this done as fast as possible? We went out, we got the patient, and got all the info that I could, went back to the plane.
All right, sir, they're approaching aircraft and gurney.
I got a tap on the shoulder, and it turns out one of his sons asked if he could go with.
Sir, yep. Is it possible for the son to come with? You can find space for him, sir. If you can find space for him, yeah. I'm good with it.
Once we got everyone loaded on board, and everyone was situated and strapped down. We took off immediately and started heading back to Kodiak.
How's he doing? A lot of chest pain. I just wanted to get a hold of the flight surgeon and ask if he wouldn't mind I give him another dose of nitroglycerin. Okay, I'll contact Company right now.
Patient was alert and verbal. While we were en route, though, we noticed his blood pressure go up and his pain level wasn't improving. He had nitroglycerin, and it was prescribed to him for just that. Anytime he gets some kind of heart pain, he's supposed to take a dose of it. Because he'd already self-administered 2 doses, I had the pilots call and talk to the flight surgeon to make sure I could help assist the patient in taking a 3rd dose of nitro.
The flight surgeon said that's fine. Give him a 3rd shot.
Okay, Roger, that's approved from the flight surgeon for a 3rd shot. Also, what's the current weather conditions here at the field?
Could be better. The TAF that came out about a half hour ago is calling a half mile in the fog, if that's helpful.
We're about 3 or 4 minutes out from landing. All right, back in the patchy fog.
The transit from Old Harbor to Kodiak was even worse than the transit from Kodiak to Old Harbor. But the whole worst part of the whole ordeal was, I'd say, the last mile and a half. We're in the thick of it, like pea soup fog, like I've never seen.
Go for refresh. Runway should be off the left. Okay, coming up in altitude a little bit. There's 70 feet. Just kinda, I got visual with the water, so just keep descending down. Let's go down to like 50 feet.
Had to continually come in and get lower and slower. So eventually we were about a mile out from the airport. We had to pull the aircraft into a hover over the water and just crawl our way in. Both pilots were working together, trying to get in there, backing one another up.
Up and down on the instrument scan. You look outside. Yep, I'm looking outside. Have doors coming open. Yep, Roger. Up, look out. You got the strobe? Yep, going for the strobe. Perfect. That's tower on the right side, no backer. Yeah, Roger.
We trained for this exact scenario. Thank goodness, because it is uncomfortable. You want to get there as fast as possible, but you have to get there.
All right, we're almost there, guys. Pick it up just a little bit. Constant 6010. We're on deck at this time. Request you secure our radio guard, over. Well, that was downright miserable. That was horrible. Good job, though. I've got lights from the ambulance over at by the fuel trucks where they normally sit. Good eye.
His condition improved before we landed, and then once we got back on deck here, we were able to pass him off to an ambulance to take him safely over to the hospital.
And cleared him in, sir. Roger.
After the survivors hand off to EMS and we shut the aircraft down, we started coming off that adrenaline that we usually run on in the middle of the night like that. And yeah, we were all pretty tired. We had a very thorough debrief. A lot happened during the flight.
A case like that is really rewarding. It's like putting a puzzle together with having a time crunch added to it. When you can get everything accomplished within that time frame that you're hoping for, then you have a lot to be happy for, absolutely.
My name's Emil Christensen. I was born and raised in Old Harbor, Alaska. I was getting ready to go commercial fishing, and about 11 o'clock in the evening, I got kind of sick, and I didn't know what it was. When I got sick, my 2 sons came on board. They thought I was having a heart attack, which I thought I was myself. It's 11 o'clock at night, and it's foggy out, and the only help we have is the U.S. Coast Guard. If Coast Guard wasn't there, I might not be here today. I've seen a lot of rescues they've done. I've seen the weather they've come in, and you gotta appreciate them. I've watched them rescue my own son about 25 years ago when he was sick. I don't know how I could thank them from the bottom of my heart. I'd just like to thank you very much.
Got him in sight. Got him, sir?
The aircraft was wedged in between 2 trees with both wings ripped off, about 8 feet off the ground. I knew it was going to take all my physical and mental abilities to make it through this SAR case.
That turbulence messed everything up.
attention all units, just received crash phone. 737 crashed on the right side of the runway 36. Unknown people on board, unknown fuel on board.
I just want to say I appreciate everybody doing this for us. It is an exercise we got to do every 3 years. Really try to make it realistic. If you could, please, I appreciate that. We're trying to just make sure our plan that we have in place will work. So again, thank you very much.
My name's Eli Bell. I'm my AST at the Air Station Kodiak. We're at the fire department on base and doing this mass casualty drill airplane crash for the fire department and a couple of the local area emergency responders.
Your plane was coming in this way and it veered off and crashed right here. Hi, I'm Jeff Falcom. I'm the fire chief for the Coast Guard Fire Department here in Kodiak, Alaska. For the drill, we normally set up, try to make it as realistic as possible for the responders so that they're responding to actual fire and actual patients to deal with. So we simulate that. We had 15 patients with some victims that were pretended to be fatalities for a plane crash. We use buses, pretend like there's fuselages so that they can extricate the patients out of there. They're actually going to start using heavy equipment to bust open this bus and get you out of there, okay? And it's going to be terrifying. They should be calming you, reassuring you. They should be doing all that kind of stuff, okay?
Get in there and help me. Don't worry about me. Go in there and help them. I need you to go up to the engine here. They're going to help you out.
Today I volunteered to be a victim. Being an EMT, it's a good opposite view of what to expect and maybe get a little bit more information of how to deal with something like that. Somewhat experience on that in that level of training.
Marcus! Yes? I got somebody coming out the back. Yes.
Okay, triage them red.
Triage them red. We set up a triage area. We try not to send all the patients at once. We try to figure out the most serious and get them going. And then we distribute the rest of the patients that aren't as severely injured to different clinics so we don't overwhelm one agency.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and start an IV on her.
1, 2, 3. Oh! All right, do you feel any of that?
Today's drill went exceptionally well. We basically transported, I believe, 17 patients effectively to the hospital within an hour. And that's also putting the fire out and extricating them out of the aircraft. That's just phenomenal.
Is that good? You're good to go, sir. Okay. You got it. Roger.
We just got information of a possible downed aircraft in the vicinity of Petersburg. All we have right now is a position from the locating beacon that the aircraft has. We also know that there were 7 people on board. Our aircraft is equipped with receivers that can pick up the 406 beacon. So on this case, we're going to actively be monitoring those frequencies to make sure that we can pick up that transponder and it'll get us right on the spot.
Hi guys, so let's assume this is an actual plane down and there's people there. If everybody's fine, we can take them to Petersburg. If somebody needs medical attention, we'll probably have to take them to Juneau. Is there anything that you think we should be thinking about there, Dave? Yeah, just triaging. How many people can fit in here? 7 people. Yeah, let's hope for the best.
Anytime you hear 7 people, then you start thinking for a mass casualty. Extra medical gear, extra litters and backboards. Downed aircraft, you start thinking about wreckage and fire hazards and maybe some tools to be able to cut through some of that wreckage.
Are you picking anything up on 406 yet, sir? Negative. I'm going to start my descent. I've got the area in sight to where we're headed. Cabin doors open for the ramp. Okay, cabin doors open. Cabin doors open, locked. I can't see that side over there, Drew. That's the only thing. I can see there's this first ridge and then the second ridge behind it.
As we flew across Frederick Sound, I could see the weather system in the valley. Essentially, the whole east side of the sound was consumed in fog. This was kind of disconcerting because, you know, we're going to have to go in there to start looking. So problem is as we crossed the shoreline, the ceiling started to drop. We essentially came into about a 200-foot hover, which put us about 20 feet over the trees, and we slowly, incrementally crept up the valley. Kind of a critical maneuver in the aircraft, not a great flight regime to be in, but we needed to get to that position to locate the beacon and hopefully the crash site.
Freaks me out being in the door, flying around the mountains like this. All right, we're gonna creep through the air real quick. We're looking for broken trees, anything that would be a telltale sign of,
We had been on scene about 40 minutes before we can get our first plane passed through the valley. And it's very disheartening to know that you have a position, you can't fly to it because of weather. You know that there's people out there that need your help, but we also have to worry about the safety of the aircraft and the air crew, because if we end up in the trees, we can't help anybody. So we needed to make smart decisions, get in there safely to be able to effect the rescue.
We're pretty much over the spot. If we were right there, yeah, the 406 is over here.
The first step is obviously finding the crash, which sometimes can be the most difficult due to the weather here. The fog was so thick, we were nearly 500 feet from their position, and we couldn't even see the mountain. All we could see was fog. It's frustrating. The woods is really thick, and the weather's not cooperating, and you know people are down there and they're in distress, and seconds count.
Got him in sight. Got him, sir. Track control. Hey, got him in sight. Got him, sir. Track control. Hey, Dave, will you call sector, tell them we located him? Be advised, we have located a person down here.
We launched on a downed aircraft with 7 people on board. Once we saw him, we started talking about hoisting right away. It was going to be a max height hoist, and the terrain was very rugged, lots of trees. It was on a mountainside. It was going to be a difficult hoist, for sure.
All right, Dave, let's get you ready. Roger that, sir. It's hard to tell what that slope's doing, Dave. It's pretty steep.
Mr. Gibson said that he spotted someone. It was a huge lift off us, knowing that we found them, they were there, and we can now do our job. Mr. Erickson decided that we wanted to do a harness deployment of the rescue swimmers to land. The biggest problem with that was that our hoisting area was maybe about, I'd say, 5 feet by 5 feet, and we're doing a hoist from around 200 feet.
Dave, you feel good squaring up that hill if we put you right between those 2 logs? Yeah, that's not too bad. Sure, I feel good doing that. All right, anything happens, guys, we're going in the creek bed right there. That's where I'm putting it. Roger. Man, where is the freaking crash at? I wonder if it's out. Dude, I think it's, you see right out your door, right to the right of it, there's something on the ground. He must have just nosed it in. Yeah, I can't even see.
When we decided to hoist, we didn't have a visual of the actual plane crash. We just had one survivor on the ground. And so the plan was to lower me down with the EMT kit and make contact with the survivor. And then I was going to radio back the situation to the helicopter from there.
Car's coming over outside cabin door for load check. Load check is forward. Load check, please. Car's going down.
100 feet.
Car's below the aircraft. Car's going down.
As I was getting lowered down, the sheer height of the hoist was kind of in the back of my mind, and I knew I'd be getting lowered down through some trees, but I have full confidence in Newkirk. We work together a lot. I was just ready to get down there and help him out as soon as possible.
Make sure you don't come down any. We're about 10 feet from a tree below us. Yeah, Roger. Can you come easy, right, sir? Yep. Swears on deck.
Once I got on the ground, it looked completely different from the air. It was much more treacherous than I had saw. There was a lot of debris, big down trees, and it was a lot steeper and muddier than we had anticipated. I knew it was going to take all my physical and mental abilities to make it through this SAR case.
You have to clear that tree there? You're clear above it. Don't descend at all.
6038 swimmer made contact with this gentleman. It is confirmed one person is dead. There are other people who can walk, and I'm going to go with him to the crash site. Over.
And roger that. Once you get to the crash site, give us a update on who is ambulance or and who's not.
There was one person with a back injury and a possible broken leg, another person with a possible broken back, another person with a broken wrist, and 3 other people all had cuts and bruises and were in some pain. They had been there for over 5 hours. The aircraft was wedged in between 2 trees with both wings ripped off, about 8 feet off the ground. The burning smell is what really got to me and what made the situation even more dire.
Okay, I have 1 litter rigged and ready. Now let's get the other one.
Right off the bat, I assembled one of the litters, and I hoisted that litter down as quickly as I could. Came back into the cabin. I reconfigured the cabin again, assembled a second litter, and sent that litter down.
God, it was a bad decision to do my shoulder workout yesterday.
They hoisted down the litter to me for the first survivor, which was the female with the back injury and the broken leg. I had to explain to her that it was going to be very painful for me to pick her up and put her in this litter. She was really brave, and I picked her up and got her strapped up in the litter. There was debris flying everywhere from the trees and getting thrown around from the ground. I felt bad for her because she was getting debris thrown on her, so was I. But her best chance of survival was rapid extraction.
There's coming inside the cabin. Move the basket really quickly. And there's coming inside the cabin.
So what we came up with was that we were going to litter the broken leg patient and then basket the broken arm patient. Get those folks back to Petersburg, get them to the ambulance while Dave packaged up the back injury. We formulated that plan, and then we would go back to Petersburg and come back and pick up the remaining survivors and Dave.
Bringing the basket up to the cabin door. Oh man, this is gonna be the hard part. Hanging halfway out right now. So. Right here, okay? Oh man, this is gonna be the hard part.
We got on scene. There was a downed aircraft in the vicinity of Petersburg with 7 people on board. The aircraft crashed in some pretty rough terrain. The fact that there were 6 survivors was amazing. But we did have a daunting task ahead of us. We had to figure out how we were going to extract these 6 people. The flight mag, Mark Newkirk, he was hustling. He was the one that was dragging the litters in, repositioning people.
Hanging halfway out right now. So. Right here, okay?
The second survivor had a broken wrist. He was the son of the lady I hoisted in the litter. I had to crawl outside the door a little bit so he couldn't fall out of the aircraft, and then pick him up because he had a broken wrist and he couldn't lift his weight, and move him over to the seat.
He is in a lot of pain, sir, and I just need to get him in the seat, and then we're ready for forward flight, sir.
We talked to Dave at that point and said, hey, we're gonna leave you here, and so you can package your second survivor, and we're gonna take him back to Petersburg.
Take your approach. Take your approach, sir. Okay.
Petersburg was probably about an 8-minute transit from the crash site. It was ideal for a rescue operation like this where you need to make multiple trips. We were able to get on deck, and there was EMS personnel already pre-staged and waiting. We were able to offload the 2 patients relatively quickly to get back out on scene.
All right, you got enough room back there for 4 more survivors and Dave? I really hope so, sir. All right, good copy. We're just arriving on scene now, so it'll be bare hook recovery of the baskets, and we can do it all as one evolution. If you're okay with that, and that's the brief. If there's no questions, that's the brief, please.
I did 2 basket hoists of 2 survivors. That went fine.
Basket coming inside the cabin.
And then on the 3rd basket hoist, when I had the basket about 20 feet off the deck, we caught a burble. A little bit of turbulence, and it moved the aircraft just slightly, about 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit of an oscillation in the basket, so I'm trying to stop the swing so he doesn't hit that tree. Basket just hit the trees, basket's out of the trees. Coming up, swinging really bad, sir. That turbulence messed everything up. And basket's coming up. He's doing a really good job just sitting there, though.
I had to use both hands to control the cable to get it to stop swinging. And the guy in the basket actually hit the trees twice, and I was able to get him up in the cabin.
This guy's gonna puke when he gets in here. Bring a basket up to the cabin door. Nice job, Mark. Move into the basket.
First 3 baskets went well. Now Mark had to do the daunting task of making enough room in the cabin with 3 survivors already in there to get the 7-foot litter in the back of the helicopter.
And litter's clear of the deck. Easy, right, sir? Very easy, right? And hold. I don't know how this kid has a smile on his face, but he does. This one's gonna take me a little longer to bring inside, sir, because he's got a back injury. You got it, buddy. And bringing the litter inside the cabin. Oh, all this mud, I have like no traction. Take your time. Roger.
So we got the last litter into the cabin, and sent down the bear hook to pick up Dave, and he hooked up. Got him up to the cabin, and he's turned facing me. He's just covered with mud. He's got mud all over his face, all over his dry suit.
Okay, he's coming inside the cabin. And the cabin door's closing. We are ready for forward flight. How's it going, buddy? Good to go. A little wet, but going good.
Once I make it in the helicopter, I immediately go into reassessing the patients. They were all shivering uncontrollably. They're all soaking wet. And so hypothermia was a major concern, breaking out blankets and keeping their spirits up.
Mr. Juno, Coast Guard Rescue 603 at the Petersburg.
Once we landed and we did the patient transfer to the local EMS, it was a huge feeling of relief. It was a great feeling to be able to go and help those people. I had given everything I had. Missions like these, they're an extreme circumstance, but the individuals in the Coast Guard are of the highest quality. Makes me really proud to be a member here. This particular case just goes to show that anytime the alarm goes off, you never know what's going to happen. Aside from the one man who died, we were able to locate the survivors, provide medical care, and extract them out within probably less than 6 hours from their crash, which here in Southeast Alaska is nothing short of a miracle.
There are moments and events and people that God uses as powerful signs of hope. My name is the Reverend Frank Allen. I'm an Episcopal priest or minister. Some of you know that the Allen family went on a once-in-a-lifetime vacation in June. We booked a cruise to tour part of Alaska. We had casually signed up for a float plane excursion. 10 minutes into the flight to the glacier, the plane took a hard turn left and stalled. And we crashed into a pair of gigantic trees and then dropped 20 feet straight down. When we crashed, the weather had been changing, getting a little iffy. It was dark in the forest, it was wet. Yeah, we felt very much alone. My intent was to get my family out of the plane and get them situated as quickly as possible. About 3 hours into the crash, you're hoping that someone is going to save you, but then when you hear the sound and you can see the helicopter, then you have this sense that we're going to get out of this. And that was a great feeling. That was a tremendous feeling to know that there was an organization that was taking care of people who, just by happenstance are lost in the wilderness after a plane crash. I have a regret that I didn't stop and shake everyone's hand. I don't know if I'll ever see these men again or be able to thank them for saving my family and saving me from what, could have been death. It's a great gift. That's all I thought of.
All right, we got the bear target and the deer target. Start off at 25 yards. I'll shoot a couple arrows and let you shoot a couple. My name is David White. I'm a rescue swimmer at Air Station Sitka, and we're at the archery range. I'm gonna practice shooting some arrows. 3 fingers, 1 on top, 2 on bottom. You kind of cock it to the side so the arrow doesn't fall out.
Okay.
My favorite pilot in the world, Mr. Enixon, is here, and I'm gonna show him the basics on primitive archery.
Like that?
Just like that. I've been shooting traditional archery my whole life. My main goal here in Alaska is to take down a brown bear with my longbow.
How close do you plan to get to the bear?
25 yards from the bear.
That's how close you're gonna get?
Yep, I have to. Otherwise, might not be enough.
Dave White is certifiably crazy. Taking down a brown bear, essentially a grizzly bear, he's gonna have to sneak up on the bear and not spook it, which is gonna be a feat in itself, but if anybody can do it, it's gonna be Dave White.
Instead of just standing still in one area, I like to shoot from all different locations, from kneeling and standing and around trees and stuff, just to make it a little more realistic.
That'll do it.
4 kills, 1 gut shot.
What kill zone are you gonna be aiming for? Right by the shoulder there?
Right in here.
The big circle right there?
Yep.
Probably a dead giveaway.
And for his first time out shooting the traditional bows, he's doing really good. Stare right at the bullseye.
Oh!
There you go.
Right shoulder.
I like the traditional bow just because it's more of a challenge, takes more skill, out of respect for the animal. You know, I want to get up close and personal and make it a challenging hunt.
I'll just back you up with the rifle.
All right.
Because obviously, I'm not too good of a shot.
There you go.
I think that one just would have made him mad.
You want to see some Robin Hood tricks?
Yeah.
Two's better than one.
It's like a shotgun, there you go. Shooting a longbow is really neat because you're going back in history. I mean, it's before technology, before the technology that we used in our compound bows and our rifles. So it's really getting back to the roots of hunting.
Killing a brown bear with a longbow is like the ultimate hunting adventure. You know, this is wood and string. There's no room for error.
You're crazy.
The Coast Guard has received a report of possible person in the water.
That other guy's out there, and we're not going to stop until we determine that he did not live or until we find him.
All stations, this is United States Coast Guard Sector 20. The Coast Guard has received a report of possible person in the water in the vicinity of home shore.
So this is the backstory that Sector gave me. Before we got launched, the fishing vessel Swift told him that he's having a problem with a crew member and that the guy is currently in the water.
I'm Commander Neil Cummings, the engineer officer at Air Station Sitka. This evening we got launched on a case for a possible man overboard. Basically, a guy had told one of the other vessels that, hey, I got a problem on board. If you don't hear from me in 20 minutes, probably gonna need some help. And 20 minutes went by, next thing you know, we were on the go. Now, knowing that the guy had already been in the water for 20 minutes, time was super, super critical. We proceeded direct over the mountains at a couple thousand feet.
Say we do get on scene and no one's on board. We're gonna start a Victor Sierra right at that position. We're gonna throw that in.
As a rescue swimmer, when I hear PIW, a person in the water, first thing I'm thinking about is I hope he has a survival suit on. Because if you don't have that on, you're not gonna have much time. Once we arrive on scene, we start searching, and I was up on the FLIR, the forward-looking infrared, looking for a possible heat signature of the survivor.
There's an upside down skiff right there, and there's something red right on the shore, sir. We got door speed. Roger, Captain, doors opening.
Got on scene, and their boat was about a quarter mile offshore, and there was a person standing on shore with a survival suit laid out.
He's in that red right next to the shore, sir. He's got some kind of stick or something with him.
As we come over the ridgeline, it was about the same time we picked him up visually. It was an individual in a survival suit. Definitely looked like he was having trouble standing up. Had some kind of an oar or a stick, using it as a cane or a crutch. So we knew that was our individual right away. At that point, we realized there was a Coast Guard vessel on scene. We did a low approach.
I'm gonna call that boat and see what they can do. 671 6030. You guys gonna be able to get in there and get him, or are we gonna need to hoist him?
Roger. Looks like you guys might have to come hoist him. I'm probably not gonna be able to get the boat up there. And he looks like he's in pretty bad shape. He's sitting on the ground. Looks delirious over.
Coast Guard small boat. They were able to get within shouting distance of him. They weren't able to beach the boat because the shore was really rocky. Since the boat couldn't get close enough to pick him up, it was up to us to get in and hoist me down.
Just tried talking with the gentleman. He said he's not doing very well, and there is still one other person that's missing. He does not know where he's at.
When they made contact with him from shore, they found out that his nephew had jumped overboard to swim to shore and got into some trouble and was yelling for help.
In this case, we had heard that there were two people in the water, but looking at the survivor from the air, we could tell that he was pretty hypothermic. And with another small boat on scene that can start the search for the next survivor, we made the decision to do a hoist.
He's on scene, so let's set up for our approach. It looks like a pretty steep beach. Yeah, it's pretty steep, sir.
Once we decided to hoist, we went into Rescue Checklist Part 2. We started completing it. Dave dressed out into his gear to get hoisted. I brought Dave to the cabin door. I tapped him on the chest to release his gunner's belt and to check himself. And then after that, we went ahead and load checked him and sent him down to the beach.
Door's going down. Door's going down and hold. Where's that survivor?
When I'm approaching the survivor, I could tell right away that he was hypothermic. He was shivering uncontrollably. He was mumbling. He could barely form words, and he couldn't stand or walk on his own power.
3-0 rescue swimmer made contact with the patient, and he is very weak, and he is hypothermic. Over.
And roger that, we'll set up for a basket. See you noise. Roger, target in sight. Fast coming over now outside the cabin door.
I knew I was going to have to help him into the basket. I had to make sure he didn't have his arms out because there's a possibility of them getting crushed alongside the helicopter.
Basket inside the cabin.
Picked up the survivor, got him inside the cabin. The problem was after that, he was very cold. He could not move. And he was a pretty large fellow, a lot bigger than me. So I had to pick him up out of the basket on my own just to, secure him, get him stabilized, and so I could pick up the swimmer.
Doors out of the basket. And hoist complete.
Once I got back up in the cabin, Mark had already had the survivor in the seat, buckled up. So I threw a blanket around him, and we had the heat going full blast.
All right, take a look and see how he's doing. Hey, he's hypothermic. He's really cold. He said he was in the water for a couple hours, so probably want to try to get we're going to take him to Juneau. Okay. Roger. Not all there. Roger. It's really, really cold. I don't know. He can barely answer my question. Is he drinking? Yeah, he's drinking some water. Roger. Not all there. Roger. It's really, really cold. I don't know. He can barely answer my question. Is he drinking? Yeah, he's drinking some water.
A lot of times with hypothermic people, they're dehydrated. So I gave him a bottle of water, and he started chugging that thing down. After he had some water in him and warmed up a little bit, he was able to answer a lot more questions.
Yeah, he's the captain. All right. Did you know anything about where the other guy might be? Okay, so the other guy wanted to swim to shore and started hauling for help, and the current took him. He got in to try to help him. All right. Do you have a survival suit on? He did not have a survival suit on.
The information that he told me was that his nephew had jumped overboard to swim to shore, got into some trouble and was yelling for help, and then Tim went in the water to try and help his nephew out. We landed in Juneau, and the EMS was waiting for us. Mark asked if I needed help bringing him out, and I definitely needed help. So we walked him out to the EMS and passed him off.
En route to dropping off the survivor, we knew our job was half done. When you know that there was somebody, still out there, and at this point, time is really critical because, you figure it's been probably about 6 hours since this individual's been on the water, and, our adrenaline's really rushing now. We want to make sure that, we do our best effort to get this guy home to safety.
In Alaska, whether it be summer or winter, the water's very cold. After hearing that a person had been in the water with no flotation, no survival suit for several hours, it's difficult to hear as a rescuer. We knew that we were just going to have to search.
3-0, this is Secretary. Return to last known position, and then we will pass the search pattern over.
So we fly back to the position that we picked up the guy, and then we just began a sector search, and we're looking for anything in the water that could possibly be a human. It's kind of disheartening because you're tired, you're exhausted, and it's literally like 250 miles that you fly in a square, looking out the door, just trying to find something in the water. But that other guy's out there, and we're not gonna stop until we, A, determine that he did not live, or until we find him.
What's that right there, Mark? That's just buoy, I think. Oh, yeah? Okay. Sector Juno, Rescue 30, be advised, the entire search area has been completed.
This particular case is kind of bittersweet. We were able to help one and weren't able to find the second person, and it's frustrating and it's pretty sad. It's not a case you can really celebrate. It's just it's part of the job. Sometimes it happens, and I just have to move on after that.
We get back on deck just in time to see another crew coming out, and they're gonna take the plane from us, and they're gonna go and they're gonna keep looking. This really shows what the Coast Guard does, is we don't give up on people, no matter what the circumstance is.
My name is Tim Lane. This is the Swift. I just remember hitting the beach, and I had a suit partway on and trying to take that suit off so I could stand. And I remember taking it off and looking and seeing the Coast Guard boat, and then down the beach I heard the chopper, and it was just that quick. I'd like to thank the flight crew. Man, I mean, everything went off without a hitch. I was really happy that they decided to take me to Juneau, but I was really glad that they were able to come back and continue the search. It's a tough deal, that's for sure. My nephew, Alan, he crewed for me when he was 13 years old, and he was 25 this year. If I hadn't called that tender and he hadn't got a hold of the Coast Guard, I don't think I'd be here either.